So we're on record now.
Okay, thank you. All right, this is the West University Historic Zone Advisory Board meeting for Wednesday, July 26th. It is 6:03 p.m. and let's do a quick roll call. Jim Block.
Present.
Darcy Hazelbaker.
Present.
And Rachel Sarah.
Here.
And Richard McDonald present, so we have a quorum. Item 2 on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from May. I know it's been a while. I don't know if everybody's had a chance to look at them, but can I have somebody?
I will move approval of the minutes.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Second.
Rachel Sarah, I second.
All right, all in favor, aye.
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 All right, aye. So unanimous approval of the minutes. Michael, any call of the audience? I assume no.
No, there was none received before meeting, before yesterday at this time. So no.
Okay. All right, well, let's move on to the meat of the agenda. Item 4A, SD 0523 00059 713 East 5th Street. And Jose, turn it over to you.
Good afternoon.
So before Jose starts, let me remind the board that this is a zoning violation case. So in zoning violation cases, you review the case as if they were coming to you to propose to do what they have already done. What would be your decision? So it is not saying that, oh, because this has been done, what can we do? You have the authority, you have the power to say, you have done this, but this is not what we would have approved. Just so you know, and that is how all zoning violation cases are looked at. They are looked at as they are coming to you with a new proposal. They're not coming to you with what is there. Sometimes what is there will probably fit what you would have approved. It is good. If it doesn't fit, there is no saying that, oh, what are we going to do? So my understanding is that most of the things I will say is going to present to you today have already been done or are in the process of being done. That said, if there's any question for me, I can answer before we start the review.
Okay. I know you got some presentation material, Jose, if you want to take control of the screen.
Sure.
Yep.
Can I just click on the chair here?
Yeah. I don't think that there's a limitation for you, but if you have a limitation, let me know. I can.
Yeah,
It's not letting you.
oh no, it won't let me. It says host table participant screen sharing.
Okay. I am going to make you a co-host right now so you can share the screen.
Okay,
You're good to go.
like that. Okay, here we go. Okay. Can you guys see the screen now?
Sure.
Yeah, I want to try to open up here. Okay, so my name is Jose Ceja with Exa Architects, and I was hired by my client here to help him out with this problem that he had created for himself. This property is, I know on the information we said it was 1713. There's 2 units, one on the back and one on the front. The front unit is a duplex, is 711, is unit 1 and 2, and the rear building is 713, unit 1 and 2. So what the client did a while ago, they started remodeling, replacing the windows without a permit. They decided they wanted to make them more efficient, and the windows that were there were damaged, and this is what he decided to do, just replace them and put new windows in there. At that time, you know, I guess somebody called on them, or somehow the city found out about it, and they put a stop work order on the project on both units. So as far as the units are concerned, the unit on the front, the 7-Eleven, that unit is actually a contributing structure. The unit on the back is not. So I'm gonna click on here. Let me see. So here,
So Jose, is this review for both units or it is just for 713?
well, it's for both units, but and the only reason I'm doing this, Michael, is because they put a hold on work order on both units. And so as we started working on the historical review, if you noticed on the package that I submitted, both units are shown on here.
I
So-
understand because they have two separate addresses.
That's correct. So if I zoom in at I'm actually zooming in, I'm not sure you can see it. The only contributing property is the 7-Eleven, which is the main duplex on the front of the street. The back property, the back unit, which is a two-story unit, that's the one that is not. So if that's not going to be an issue, I'd rather not even mention it or talk about it on this project unless you need me to.
So
No,
Jose, since all the properties, both properties exist within the historic zone, they have to be reviewed and they're reviewed to the same standard. It does actually matter that one is contributing and one is not,
Okay.
but we're responsible for reviewing all of them against our guidelines.
Fair
So
enough.
if you're proposing both, then we need to do both.
Yeah, we're proposing both. That's why I put both of them in place.
Okay.
And so I'm going to start here with the first one. This is the unit. You can see this images. This is the unit on the front. This is 7-Eleven. It's basically the duplex, and is composed of some exposed stone and stucco and comp shingles on the roof. The project on the back is pretty similar, except that they have stucco. It's frame and stucco, it's not brick, and it's actually some T111 on the structure. They tried to, you can see in here, they started fixing, repairing, and patching some of those areas. But I submitted this package with a couple of elevations here. And what I did is, this is the unit 7-Eleven. This is the front unit. And what I'm showing in here are the existing elevations. And this is what's there now, this drawing here. It basically indicates, even though, for example, where I'm zooming in, you can see this is the existing door that was there, that wasn't changed. This side of the house wasn't changed, that's the existing window. But the left side, which is basically the west side of the property, that was actually changed. They put a new door, they removed the old window, put a new window. All the windows they installed, they're Pella windows. They're a wood inside and aluminum clad on the outside. And so what I did, I just went through individual elevation and indicated what's existing the way it is right now, which means existing windows there, or replace windows, or enclosed windows that were removed, and they enclose the wall to match the existing stucco. So that happens on, basically on the west side, the south side, and the north side of the property. So those are the windows. This is the existing conditions, and so.
Right. Hey, Jose, can I just pause for just a moment? If you could zoom in, say, on the south elevation, like you did before.
On the south elevation, okay, here you go.
Just as an example. So I totally appreciate the language that you're using that says existing, because that is like today, that's what it looks like. But, for the benefit of the review that we're doing and to kind of speak a little bit to what Michael started us off with, we know this particular, like picking the south elevation as an example, the east and west sides of that building were originally, before you were involved, mirror images of one another.
That's correct.
Right. So what has happened is that the east side of that building, which you're showing here existing, is the way the west side of the building looked before the applicant actually went in and made changes on his own. Or
That is
her own. Okay, so the way we're supposed to review this is that given that it's kind of, I know it sounds kind of convoluted, but we're really kind of looking at the previous existing and introduced different language would have been, again, looking at the south elevation, that the east and west were mirror images of one another. Same door, both sides, same windows, size and whatnot, both sides. And the same things there, the north elevation would have had windows and doors on both sides that were just mirror reflections of one another. I believe that's correct, right?
That's correct.
In fact, you're actually kind of showing a little bit of the dotted line
Yes.
areas where there's doors and windows that have been stuccoed over.
Right.
Okay.
So that's the portion of the existing conditions. And so what I did on top of that, the next drawing that I'm showing here is the new proposed elevations, right? And so, of course, what we're trying to do now is match the replaced windows and doors that we did on the opposite side. So here, looking at the south elevation, we're saying we want to match the same door and the same window. Again, trying to mirror what we did on the west side, now make it on the south, on the east side. And the same thing happening on the north elevation, same thing happening on the west. I mean, on the west is already done, but on the east side, matching the east elevation. So that's that part of the that's the portion of the building on the front building, the contributing building. As far as the back portion, on the rear of the building, I'm showing pretty much the building with the remodel space, the way it is right now, and the way that one's pretty much done. They're not changing anything else. You know, so the west windows, the way we show it here, that's the way it's going to remain. The south windows, same thing. The east and north elevations are going to remain as they are. So they already changed what they needed to change. And so we just want to make sure that we get approval for this if we can. And then, or whatever you guys ask us to do and proceed with it. Let me see what else. In here, we have some of the present examples of some of the houses that were that they actually changed windows, and you can see these ones have pretty much similar windows as the one we put in place. They look like, I don't know if they're Pella, I couldn't tell, but they're very similar to the Pella windows that we installed on these two houses that we're working on. So I did give several examples on there. I don't know if you had a chance to look at them, but there are several examples of the same metal clad wood windows. And that's pretty much the scope of our work that we're proposing of doing. And here are the examples of the wood windows on the inside, the doors, the exterior doors, and the stucco. We want to match the same texture of the stucco and similar color as far as the color of the outside of the house, so we can stay consistent. So if you guys have any questions for me.
Again, on the back building, and as Rick said, while it may not be contributing, it's a building in the district, and we like to see even non-contributing buildings have a nod towards the neighborhood's architectural motif. At least that's my understanding. So you're saying that the work that we're seeing in these pictures are all dealing with the stucco. They didn't replace any windows, no architectural changes. They just are repairing damaged material, not adding windows or doors.
Right. In some cases, they actually removed windows and doors instead of adding So they didn't actually add, at first, they didn't actually add windows. They just replaced the windows from what was there, with a new window system.
And this is the non-contributing structure.
Correct.
Okay. And so
Those-
then the other one that is the contributing structure was where doors and windows were replaced and the aspect ratio was changed.
Yes. So this one right here are the ones that you can see this is new and these are existing. So the new used to look exactly like the existing ones on the east side.
And I think that's also true right on the other elevations. So half of this townhouse, half of this building has been modified and half has yet to be modified. So you can kind of get an idea of what the modified side looked like before. And you can see, kind of looking at the picture, I'm guessing, Jose, looking at the picture, you've got on the screen, the lower right-hand corner, you can see 2 doors have been stuccoed over.
Right.
And I'm thinking if we compare the east side and west side pictures, you see where windows obviously have been, either the aspect ratio has been changed or they've actually been stuccoed over, maybe? I'm not 100% sure.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, you can see this one here. That window used to be bigger. They made it smaller.
Right. And then on the north elevation, which is the right, lower right, the door is gone, the rear door is gone. And then I think if you look kind of into the, where your cursor is,
Right.
there's 3 windows
Right.
that are on the east side of the building that are gone from the west side, right?
That's correct. So
Those all got stuccoed over.
yeah. Yeah,
So
so-
I guess I'm a little bit unclear as to, you are asking permission to have all of those doors and windows closed up?
So, yeah, so what we're asking for is to get permission to kind of do what we did basically on the west side, do the same thing on the east side.
Well, actually, Michael, give me some clarification here. I think even though the work has been done on the west side, we're still supposed to look at the west side as if it was the before.
That is correct.
And the board is being asked that if the work hadn't been done and he had brought this before us, would we have permitted that work as well? Would we, not permitted, but have approved that work?
I mean, we generally, especially on a contributing property, don't want to see doors and windows change their ratios, their aspect ratios, their size. And we definitely don't like seeing them closed up. So that said, I'm not really sure this would have been approved as presented.
I would, as presented, I would ask that the aspect ratios be retained, that the door be retained, that the lintels be maintained, that appropriate materials be utilized in general. If I were to see this today without the work having been done, I would have asked the applicant to abide by that.
So Jim, are you saying that you would suggest that the doors and the windows be brought back to the original configuration?
Michael, I am reviewing this as though they weren't there. I'm not going to state whether they should be brought back or not. That's not what you asked me to do. You asked me to review it as though it hadn't been done. And so that's my comment.
So Michael, just, a form of nuance, and I know we don't normally see stuff like this where the work has already been done and we're supposed to look at it as if it hadn't. But I think what Jim's saying is that if this had been presented to him before the work had been done, he would not have agreed that the work should be done as it has been done. I know that's kind of confusing.
Well, but the implication of that is if this were presented to him, he would say, don't do it this way, which means that
Yes,
let the doors and the window go back to the way they were.
right. And I think what the reason Jim's putting his hands up is as the board member, he's saying, I would never have approved this.
Exactly.
So back to you, Michael, as the city, what do you do? I mean, I think we had that precedent in the past, not in Jim's
I don't
case.
think this is something that the board should struggle with.
I don't think.
No.
We've had cases in the past where windows have been replaced. I don't remember the exact one, but I feel like it might have been on 6. And the directive of the board was that applicant needed to replace those windows that were not approved windows and bring them back to the original.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I will take a stand and say that I would like to ask that the doors and windows that have been covered up be brought back to the way that they were.
Yeah, I was trying to think too, we were looking at a property one time where they had infilled a door, but the lintel was still intact. And I can't remember what our decision on that was, or if that was contributing. Remember the property I'm talking about?
Yeah, and maybe that was the same one, like it was like on the side or something. And
Yeah,
so
it was like kind of a little laundry
Mhm.
shed thing.
Mhm.
You did ask them to bring it back to its original configuration.
Yeah, I don't think we would have, I know we would not have approved to have all of these doors and windows eliminated or covered up or changed in their proportions.
In their aspect ratios, right?
Yeah.
And I guess I'll also add, just to sort of, I appreciate, Jose, we're generally speaking good with wood core metal clad windows as long as the design of the windows is essentially the same, right? If they're single sash, double sash, same kind of lights, that sort of thing. The front door that you guys have put in, not you, but that has been put in, that's this metal slab door, we would not approve you. That's also not allowed by our guidelines.
Yeah, and I think something that it sounds like you maybe were a little bit unsure about. So the difference between like a contributing property or the non-contributing property. So with the non-contributing property, you have a little bit more leeway in maybe changing some of the aspect ratio situations, as long as you could point to a contributing property in your development zone that has those features. But with the contributing property, we really don't want those ratios to change. Does that make sense?
Right. So Jose, can you just, we're going to bounce around a little bit and then we're going to probably have to kind of regroup on some recommendations. But if you go to the non-contributing property for just a moment, I'm not 100% clear. Yeah, let's look at the lower picture for a moment. So it appears to me that, forgetting the stucco work, that a window, say on the second floor, maybe 2 windows on the second floor had been boarded over.
Right.
Was that part of this recent work done, or is that some of the,
So
those boards look fresh, don't they?
yeah, those boards are fresh, and it looks like, and just from what I can tell, that they actually put a window. I'm not sure if they put 2 windows and one broke or what happened there, but you can see that the face or the header is continuous. It doesn't look like it was, it looks like the same color paint and everything. The same thing over here,
Mhm.
and this one, I think they tried to close it because you can see what they did with the with the mini
With the
split.
mini split, yeah.
So they don't want to have a window there, whatever.
Okay. And are you saying that the way we're seeing it now is a finished product? So there's no.
No, it's not. They were in the process of working on this. And then you can see the green tag there. There was a stop work order on that. The idea is for them to complete it, restucco the whole thing and repaint it to make sure that, I mean, it matches, right? So
Right.
that's the idea.
And the windows that we're seeing though are the intended final windows. They just didn't get through the stucco process.
Yeah, so those windows are the ones that they replace, and so those are the ones that they want to keep. So
On the first floor, again, looking at this picture, it appears to me that those windows are sliders, not.
yeah, these ones on the bottom, I think those are they were existing. Those are sliders. These ones
Mhm.
on the top or the new ones, the white ones, or the color windows.
The double hung. Were you able, I don't think we allowed slider windows at all. But if you can show sliders on a contributing property in your development zone, we could consider them.
Okay.
As this isn't a contributing property, but you still need to have like a contributing property precedent essentially for anything you want to do to this property. Does that make sense? Or this building?
Right?
So if I go back a little bit to what I think you heard earlier, Jose, since this is a non-contributing property, what Rachel just said is something that we would need to see. And then, but also because it's a non-contributing property, changing the window aspect ratios or even closing windows off, we have a little bit more flexibility on that than we do on the contributing property. So, you know, the ones on the second floor where you've obviously, not you, but where they've been like eliminated. A little bit more flexibility on that. Okay. Oh, has Betsy joined us?
I did, Rick. You can put in the notes that I came on around 6:15, a little before.
Okay. Hey, Betsy. Good to hear from you.
Hey, sorry I'm late, guys.
Yep.
It's all right. I didn't even show up last week, so.
Okay,
Being a
we're
mom
not,
is hard.
we're not doing blame or attribution.
No, I'm just saying, like, finished dinner and saw that I had all these messages and things, and I went, oh my God, it's Tuesday. I thought it was Monday, like all day long, so.
That's okay. And by the way, I really do appreciate all you board members taking time out on this Wednesday to do this.
Yes, I also appreciate it since I dropped the ball.
So can I just share this with you? I just Googled this next door, and this is the property next door.
Okay,
It's a contributing non-contributing property in the back, contributing property in the front, and you can see pretty much the same.
It's
we're
not showing on the
yeah,
screen.
we're not seeing anything, Jose.
Oh, you can see it?
No, it's still just showing your presentation.
Hold on a second. Why not? Let's see.
Sometimes in the Zoom settings, if you're sharing like that window rather than that screen.
Hold on 1 second. Let me see. What do I? I'll do this again. Here you go.
Okay,
So this is the one that we worked on. Also, you can see there used to be windows there before. That's the one that has a plywood on it, right? So this one next door has the sliders.
and that's non-contributing, Jose, that's the non-contributing building?
Yeah, this is the neighbor to the east. It's non-contributor also. So
Yeah, so you have to find a contributing property in the development zone to use as precedent.
Oh, I mean, we're talking about just the back part of it, right? The rear building.
Yeah, so if there's any elements that you're wanting to put into the project, it needs to have a contributing property precedent in your development zone. So if you can find a contributing property in your development zone that has that feature, they would be allowed.
Even
Or
though,
they could be discussed.
so now this property, the rear property, if you see it, that window, we're not changing it. That was already there, the slider.
Right. Unfortunately, it was whenever it was put in, it would not have been approved either. So it's kind of in the same boat. It's sort of if you start to change things, you have to bring everything up to the standard that's applied.
I mean, so does that mean that we need to address the screening around this porch and the other windows?
I think I would defer to Michael, how you would want to handle that.
It's entirely up to the board. What the board wants to do is not up to staff.
Yeah,
I think where we're going, Jose, in this conversation, and there is a lot of once you start touching something, you just start to open up to being having all the guidelines of the neighborhood applied. A, and then B, we can't say that it's okay to do what you're doing because somebody else did something they weren't supposed to do that we wouldn't have approved either. So, as far as the screening's concerned, I'll just state my personal opinion, not the board's opinion, my personal opinion. You're not proposing changing any of that.
No.
So I personally would not, I don't have a strong opinion on whether that's something we need to get involved in. But the windows you did change, not you, that had been changed, or the openings that have been changed, or the type of window that's being used, well, those have all been touched. And so now that you're touching it, the rules have to be, that's the only thing we have as a board to apply is our rules and guidelines. And the one flexible exception thing that we can do, which is where Rachel's been going, is to say, if there is approved precedent elsewhere in your development zone of what you're doing, then we can take that into consideration. A lot of times that applies to things like lot lines or, well, it's a variety of things, but yeah,
Okay.
just pointing to the next door neighbor who also maybe didn't do things appropriately isn't gonna.
Yeah, and I have misunderstood. I thought that you were talking about if it was a contributed property, you gotta stay with those conditions. But if it wasn't a non-contributed property, which is on the back portion, I didn't know that had to.
Yeah, so the guidelines, for now and then, for yourself in the future, the guideline, this applies to all the historic zones, historic preservation zones in Tucson. The historic guidelines apply to the structures that are in that zone.
Okay.
Not whether they're contributing or not contributing. As Rachel,
Gotcha.
as you've heard, then there's some leeway the boards have on non-contributing properties, but the guidelines themselves apply for everything in that development zone, in the historic preservation zone.
So if I cannot find another contributing property with sliding windows, then I need to come back and replace those windows.
I think so. I mean, again,
Single hung, right?
yeah, because you're not. It's sort of doubly confusing to have the conversation in this meeting because we don't know, based on our my current understanding anyway, what the true before picture looks like, right? So we're looking at stuff after the work has been done. Sometimes we can grandfather some stuff in. I'm not saying we would have in this case, but Now we're seeing it's just a sort of like a somewhat work in process. You're telling me the windows have already been replaced. Stucco got started but not completed, like the boards are showing in that picture on the screen right now. The intent is to stucco those over. Although I would also point out from, again, just my perspective, your package doesn't actually tell us that. If I were to say I'm okay with this building, it sort of implies that I'm okay with those raw boards there, which of course we wouldn't be.
Right.
There's nothing that explicitly says stucco here, stucco there to match that I saw. I did see that on the contributing property, but not on the non-contributing property. And it may be that I just missed it.
Yeah, that the elevation.
Okay,
stucco.
okay, the elevations do show that. Okay, cool. But I will also say, if you go back to that previous picture for just a second, I will give you,
This one?
yes, that one right there. If you look at the south elevation, our guidelines, even though that's non-contributing, would not say that it's okay to have a solid core painted metal door.
Okay,
You can have a solid wood door, but not a metal door. And I don't know if you have a copy of the guidelines. They're very easy to obtain online. Yeah, but that specific solid slab metal door, contributing or non-contributing, is not permitted by the guidelines.
okay.
And I think you heard us mention earlier that sliders aren't either.
Right. The slider doors.
No, well, door, yes, slider doors or slider windows. Like you see on the first floor here.
Okay.
Now, I don't know what that building looked like when it was originally built, obviously, because we don't have that evidence. So let me give you an example that you're probably going to be hard pressed to find. But if you showed me that when that thing was originally built in 1952, that it had slider windows on there, then we would take that into consideration.
Yeah, no, we actually went through the records and went through the historical, looking for pictures and see if we could find anything, but no, we couldn't, they didn't have anything on record.
Okay, so we have definitely taken exception to our interpretation of the guidelines when somebody's been able to show from historical records that it was originally a certain way that maybe was inconsistent. We've done that.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I know from my client's perspective, he wants to get this thing done, and his goal will be probably to just go through, and if he needs to replace those windows to make them single hung, he's probably gonna have to do that.
Yeah, okay.
And as far as the other, so, I mean, you guys tell us what you guys want us to do. I mean.
Well, we're gonna kind of wrap up and do that here in a moment. So let's have a little board discussion here. I think yeah. First off, for the board members, Rachel, Darcy, Betsy, Jim, are there any other questions for Jose before we have a little group chat?
So Jose, you don't have an indication of when the non-contributing structure was built, because looking at it and looking at its neighbor, I'm looking at Google Street View of both buildings. You know, the venting up at the crown of the roof, I'm not an architect, so I can't, appears to be something that was done historically when these buildings were built. The windows look, I mean, it looks like it is an older building that for whatever reason was modified enough that they decided not to make it contributing, but it seems as though they're older buildings, and to the extent that they have some historic panache, I'm compelled to ask that we kind of retain it. I live in a building that had some modifications done, like T111 added to a porch and whatnot, and it was still considered a contributing building. And then the story of the T111 added to kind of its historic, what people did to cope with changing needs in the neighborhood based on their own financial situation. So you see on both the out structures, yours and your neighbors, there's the T111 and the slider window. It's like, was that a carport underneath? Did people park underneath? I'd be curious to see.
I have no idea.
I don't know. I mentioned that's kind of a hypothetical question.
Right.
And so I think that's kind of spinning me down the drain, saying that to the extent that we can keep these non-contributing buildings in the back, yours and then the neighbors, have some sense of their historic origin, I think would be beneficial. So I'll leave it at that. And we can get in the weeds later about whether we need to move on something or another, but that's just kind of where my gut is right now. So thanks for bearing with my observation.
Well, I think, as we mentioned, as long as he's able to find, or suggest, doors and windows that would meet our guidelines, it will still fall and kind of maintain its integrity as a potentially historic structure. And so I think what we would ask is to maybe come back with, proposed door and window openings or door and windows, sorry, that would meet the standards. I think that's one of the biggest issues. And then obviously not enclosing any of those openings on the contributing property.
Not enclosing and not changing aspect ratios.
Correct.
Yeah.
Keeping the original size intact.
Right. And Jose, I know that on the contributing property, modifications were made to the doors and windows being closed or changed in shape or whatever, because I believe the owner significantly modified the floor plan on the interior.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. So, and we've had situations where and we don't rule on what you do on the inside. We just look at the outside. And if you think
Right.
about it that way, there have been occasions where we've been willing to work with the applicant and say, look, you do what you want, but I need to still see a window opening in the shape and size and appearance that was there before. If there's nothing on the other side of that window, that's okay. But from the street, you can't change the way it looks.
Fair
Does that
enough.
make sense?
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
And for the board, and Jim, you weren't here, we actually said something like that for the property on Speedway as an example. But the wholesale changing that we see here on the on the west side, yeah, we would not have approved that in the first place, in my opinion. And again, we're going to do a motion and whatnot and get a board's opinion. So that's just Rick's opinion right now.
Yeah, I have a question on that actually, Michael. So if we're supposed to be looking at this as it wasn't done, so our potential motion would be to not approve as presented, and advice in terms of having none of the doors and windows change in aspect ratio.
Your potential motion will just be a simple motion. Tell the owner or the property owner to bring back the doors and windows to your original configuration, period.
Got it. Okay.
So can you guys consider, so since I know which direction you're heading, can you guys consider saying, you know what, I need you guys to go back and bring that building. The only way we can approve it is if you put back the windows the way they were. Now, we're not going to find those windows. They're in the trash now. And they're not going to be wood exterior windows. They're going to be metal clad, aluminum windows. can we get a consideration to approve it where we can match the original openings and replace the rest of the windows, or you guys will not consider even replacing the rest of the windows on the other side, keeping the same opening sizes and
Oh, I see where you're going, Jose. So many buildings in the neighborhood, my house included,
right,
we had to replace the windows. They were beyond economic repair.
right,
And so we replaced them with windows that were consistent with the guidelines at the time. And the guidelines at the time right now, for the material the windows are made out of, you have wood core metal clad windows, and I believe the guidelines allow that.
Okay.
So that's okay. I mean, we certainly have windows that have been left, been in, disrepair. Doesn't make any sense. And I get that the old ones are in the trash.
Oh, yeah.
Where we get into, a real hard hang up, if you want to call it that, or, a hard sticking point, is when the location and the aspect ratio and the shape of the openings or the existence of the openings are modified such that the architect that designed the house would look and say, well, that's not what I did from the street. That's the problem, really. And that's where we're trying to maintain that historic nature. We're trying to be as flexible as we can with modern materials. We recognize that, over time, some of these windows probably were, need to be replaced regardless, even if it was replaced with wooden windows. We're not asking you to go find the ones out of the trash. We're not asking you to go put windows in that have ropes and weights. But we can't accept the dramatic change in appearance that has happened here. And I think that's probably the best way I can say it.
No, and I agree with what you're saying. I think what happens is I'm trying to avoid another meeting with this, because we know what we need to do. What you're telling me is we are not okay with this. We need you guys to go back and put it the way it was.
Yep.
And then if we can take the windows that are there on the east side and replace them with the same opening size and the ratio to keep it, to keep it similar to what's there, then that's really what we're looking for.
Right.
Because again, for you guys, everybody, we don't have, time is essential. And so if we can get some kind of a direction on that, I don't know if you guys can do that today. I'm not sure if I'm asking too much on here, but
You're
Michael,
asking. Oh, go ahead.
Michael, I have a question. If it was, so, because we're, pretending this is back in time and nothing's changed, and we're looking at this as it was presented to do these changes.
Right.
If you were just presenting to change the windows and doors, basically like for like, would that be a minor review?
No,
No,
It would not. Okay.
this is a zoning violation, so I.
Well, I
cannot-
know this is, but I guess
and
if,
it wouldn't.
if
and
they were
Rachel,
just
it
doing
wouldn't
that.
be anyway.
Okay.
I'm gonna kind of skip to the answer.
Richard, there
there.
is something that they call the cumulative effect. If you came to me with this number of windows and
Got
the
it.
ones that are being replaced, I would not do it as a minor review because of the cumulative effect that had on this contributing structure. If you come to me with one or two doors, one or two windows, something like that, I would say, okay, let's do it as a minor review. But you
Okay.
come to me with this amount of windows on the west side, on the east side, all over the place,
Mhm.
it's not gonna be a minor review.
That makes
is the
sense.
same question that somebody asked me, because somebody called me and they were replacing 12 to 15 windows on the contributing property. And I said, this is going to be a full review. And he said, what do you mean by it's going to be a full review? So I had to explain that, the cumulative effect of what we're trying to do. And we're not even just doing light for light. We're changing the sizes of some of the windows, we're changing the styles of some of the windows. And so, no. So if they just came to me with this door and window to answer your question, it would still be a full review.
Right.
Okay, and I guess I was trying to figure out for Jose in terms of if he comes with a new set of drawings that just show, hey, this is what the doors and windows.
The problem is
like-
that you know that because this is a full review, after you, it is going to go to plans review subcommittee. So there's no way I can short circuit that. At the
Got it.
level, yeah, at the level of the plans review, if after the plans review subcommittee, they come up with the same idea and they have the dispensation, or the director can just say that, okay, when you come back with your final design, the historic preservation officer can look at this and say yes or no. Or we can just do a minor review to see, to look at this, so you don't have to come back to the board again. That is the only level
Got
where
it.
that way you are going to reach can actually be helpful.
Okay,
At this point in time, it still has to go to plans review. So the minor review thing cannot work here.
got it.
All what you guys can do, and I can accept that, is that maybe instead of him coming back to you, you can continue the case and say, okay, Jose, come back with a different design. And if you accept to just look at it and feel that kind of replacement, because we know basically what it's going to do. You're looking at the configuration, you're coming back with a drawing that shows that you're replacing all this, and it'll just be the materials for the window, whether you're using wood or wood clad or whatever you're using, to avoid him coming back. That would be fair, but the best thing to do is for him to talk to his client, redesign this to show that you're bringing back the windows, and come back to the board. And because this is one of the things we should know, because this is a duplex, there's a tendency that this particular person is going to do the same thing on the other unit. So if you're not going to accept on this one, let the person just know that it will not be accepted on the other unit, if there is that intent.
I personally don't see any way, and Jose, I appreciate that, you know, the passage of time is important to your client. I personally do not see any way that we don't go through another review.
Okay.
Now, and I will offer to you, and it may seem like I'm adding more to the process, but it may be helpful to you. You've gotten a lot of advice from the board today that falls into the category more or less of a courtesy review. We can accept this, we can't do that. You can consider doing that. You can come back to the board and ask more questions and you know, ask Michael for what's called a courtesy review, which isn't approving or disapproving. It's just getting our like, yeah, if you do that, I'm okay. And if you do that, I'm not okay. And that may be helpful because of the magnitude of what you're doing here, and it may not. And so that's fine, but that's a process step that you certainly can exercise. But I cannot see any way for both the contributing and the non-contributing structures that you don't have to come back with a clean set of drawings and kind of a do-over, right? More or less, and again, I'm speaking for myself because we haven't done a motion yet, where I can't accept what's being proposed. I just say no and keep it kind of clean in that respect and say, you got to come back and show me what you're really going to do based on this whole conversation.
Okay.
Which fortunately, Michael is recording, so you have it available to you to listen to in the future.
So basically, in terms of the process, this is the first time that Jose is coming to you for a full review. You can continue it now, and he can choose to do a courtesy the next time that the board meets, just to get feedback and to know whether it will be okay. But if he doesn't do that, and we schedule this again, by the second time, according to the regulation, the board will have to make a decision at that time. The board cannot continue the case again the next time.
Yeah, so I think it's again, we're just having a conversation before we do a motion. I think it is in everyone's best interest to not do a continuance. This isn't a simple, you know, I really wish you would do that one window in green instead of blue. This is far more significant than that. Michael, I think we have to just give a thumbs up or thumbs down today, which gives Jose the opportunity to just come back at a future date with Plan B.
No,
And
I
so-
think what you can do is, if you give it a thumb down today, I'm going to take it to the next level. You will not have the opportunity to come back to you. So what you can do to help him, if you want, if he thinks that there's some other options that he has, you can continue the case today to give him the opportunity to go talk to the client, redesign, come back with how he's going to resolve the issue, and then you make a decision at that time. If you make you definitely will make a motion today.
Right.
It is scheduled. So what I'm saying is that if we make a motion to whatever is going to be the safest motion to help Jose here will be to continue the case so he can come back.
Okay, well, so
Well-
my only concern, and you just, give me some tutoring here, is I don't want this motion for the continuance. In the past, when we've done continuances, it's because we've had a long list of things we want to go see redone. I'm okay with a broad continuance that says, I don't like what I see here. You need to restore openings and doors to original on the west side of the house and come back and show us again. But I don't want the motion to be 7 paragraphs of you need to do this and this and this and this. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, you can make a very short motion. If that's what you're asking, yes, you can make a short motion.
I'm trying to avoid getting into a motion that has details on every single solitary thing that Jose needs to do.
I agree. I think it's sort of a global review needs to happen that sort of looks at the guidelines and sort of goes back through all of that and then can come back with the changes.
I mean, am I understanding correctly? I mean, my understanding of the issues that we have in this project are the windows and doors. Putting it back together the way that it originally were and asking for replacement of all the windows and doors with either the windows that we're suggesting and also replacing the doors with new wood doors. So it seems simple to me. I'm not sure if I'm missing something.
No, it is actually that simple, Jose. I do agree. I think it's important to look at the guidelines for the materials and stuff, but I mean,
Sure.
we've already discussed all that. And I mean, even more simply, it needs to, from the exterior, look the way it looked originally and made of the materials that are compatible with what the guidelines say you can use.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Rick, I appreciate that you don't want it to get complicated. And I think normally when we have a continuance or something like that, it is sort of a laundry list of things. Whereas this really is, we want the doors and windows to go back to their original state. And then if they're being replaced, that they're replaced, in kind. So I think that Michael is correct that we could do a simple motion that just kind of states we don't,
Fine with that.
you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Does that make sense? I think everyone's kind of correct in that, like, we've gotten into the laundry list continuances or motions before, but I don't know that this one would be.
Okay, that's what I was trying to avoid. That's exactly what I was trying to avoid.
Yeah, and I also think if the applicant feels like they understand the situation and what they need to do, then the continuance is great because then they can get it approved and get going and not have to do a courtesy and then another month.
Yeah, exactly. I think Jose sounds like he understands what we're asking.
And because we've done
Totally.
this in July, if he is ready and quick to work on it, he can also be on the agenda for August. So.
Right.
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah, most likely it's gonna happen, Mike. Michael is I'm gonna talk with the client and I mean, there's no other option. if you guys, this is what's the requirements are, that's why it has to provide, so.
So, Michael did start out saying that this is a zoning violation, so I think we need to state that, what is proposed / built is, not acceptable, and that, we need to see a plan that meets our guidelines. Is that kind of the basic thing? I'm worried that.
Can I just second that?
Hold on, I have another thing to add. I think, Jim, you're
I
right.
think we're ready.
Right, we're ready. I'm gonna do one more little thing. Jose, have you been to the property? I assume you have.
Oh, yeah, several times.
So one last thing that we didn't discuss is that if I look at the lower right-hand photograph that you've got on the screen right now, and I've happened to have seen this property with my own eyes. The stucco that's unpainted, the green, does not match the original stucco.
Right. So, so most likely, Richard, what they're gonna have to do is by the time they get done with this, the only way to make this thing make it work, they're gonna have to restucco the whole house.
They're gonna have to restucco, which is what I had to do in my home, and I'm not.
Yeah, there's no way you can patch it. It's gonna look horrible if you patch it. I mean, this right here, I don't think they were finished. I think they were preparing for the final coat on there. Maybe
Okay,
not.
that's fine.
but It just looks, no, it looks horrible right now the way it is. Yeah.
It does, even if you painted it, it would look like crap.
Oh, yeah, no, it is, yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
it just looks like the scratch coat, like you're saying that, like,
Okay,
yeah.
yes, Jim.
So one thing, and I don't, architects, please help me with term of phrase, but the lintel, that space under the window,
A windowsill.
okay, is that a windowsill? What sticks out, I think
Yes.
is extraordinarily important to our neighborhood. And you see it on the windows on the east side, and they were eliminated on the west side and eliminated in the front.
Yep.
And there have been lawsuits over those sills associated with whether they had to be stone or brick or whatnot. I'm not particular about material. I just, that's a very distinctive feature in my mind for our neighborhood.
Yeah.
Is to ensure that
Yeah.
we don't lose those, and they were lost on all the work that was done out there. Oh, that's a good point. There, you see it there in that window. And so how they mimic those to come back, I'm not particular, but I just want to make sure that that is a feature that is shown in the future with the windows that are.
Sure, I to tell the truth, I couldn't tell what the material was. I'm assuming it's some kind of brick or block, but all of it was stucco. So I mean, to me, it makes sense. It was some kind of a block.
Right.
material.
Yeah,
Just-
and in
I
that
just wanna
case,
see relief, and that's also.
yeah, in that case, Jose, if it was stuccoed over, then whether it's brick or styrofoam underneath, we don't care. It just needs to
Yeah.
have the same appearance.
Okay. Yeah, we'll
Okay.
make sure that it matches the windowsill.
Okay. All right, who?
So I think the comment I made will be our motion.
Okay, okay, then start with,
Jim,
I'm
you
Jim
actually
Block,
have
and
to
I
formally-
motion.
you Actually have to formally make a motion.
Yeah, I, Jim Block,
Oh,
make a
come on,
motion.
Michael.
Okay, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Okay, go for it.
And I move that we not approve the proposed windows as shown. Parenthetically, actually built, and ask the applicant to return with a design that meets our design guidelines. That enough?
I'm trying to follow Robert's rules here.
Yeah,
So I think somebody, if no one seconds, that's okay.
Yep.
That might
It's
be the
not been,
best thing.
it's not been seconded, so you
Oh,
can
it's not,
see.
so we really can't discuss it.
Right.
So again, we do not approve the windows and doors.
Do we want to put in there that we're requesting a continuance?
Yes.
So Jim, do you want to add that? That we're requesting a continuance?
And we're, yes, and we're requesting a continuance. Michael, is that acceptable motion from your perspective?
I would have just preferred that the motion be that the board is recommending continuance of the case. For the applicant to come back with X, Y, Z.
You know, I would say that, Michael, except you brought this forward to us stating that it is a zoning violation. We're supposed to review it as though this has not occurred. And I think it's important for us to say that what is proposed / built, proposed is not acceptable. I
Okay.
want to have that negative comment in there so that if somebody wants to go down the path of a zoning violation, they have the board's disapproval of what there is proposed / built.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, and then with Rachel's comment that this item be continued is the final comment on the motion. So is that clear enough, or should I try to?
I'm gonna
restate?
go to Madam Secretary. Darcy, do you think you have that captured as a
Well, I
motion?
was gonna say, can I just read what I have really quick?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Glock motion that the board will not approve proposed doors and windows as shown, applicant to return to the board for continuance.
So that they follow,
This
more
one.
closely follow our guidelines, or is that sort of like understood?
I can add that in.
Okay, I second with that added in.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. All in favor, aye.
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 Darcy Hazelbaker, aye.
Rick McDonald, aye. Unanimous approval of the motion. Okay, Jose, you got your work cut out for you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll take care of it and resume it fairly quickly.
Again, my apologies to the board and to the applicant. I don't know, I have a lot of 6:30 meetings and I had my brain that was 6:30 last week. So I'm now wired in my brain, it's
Nope,
6.
nope. Stop it. I didn't let Rachel do that. I'm not letting you do it either.
Okay.
I appreciate everybody taking the time, including the applicant and including Michael for doing the redo on this thing so quickly, so we didn't have to wait a whole other month to have this meeting. So thank all of you. And with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
This is Rachel, I motion to adjourn at
Jim Glock,
7:11.
Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 Rick McDonald, aye. Okay, it is whatever time it is. 6 something.
7:12.
7:12. We are adjourned. Thank you all very much and have a good rest of your night.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome back, Betsy. We want to see more posts.
Thank you, Jim. Yeah, I'm barely alive today, but
Oh,
yeah.
I bet.
So
Oh,
There,
gosh.
Betsy.
Okay, folks, the meeting is over.
Thank you, guys.
Stop recording.